Welcome to TeagleTalks Heart and Hustle, where passion meets purpose and we turn big dreams into bold moves. I'm your host, Sarah Teagle, business consultant and owner of Teagle Consulting, public speaker, and author of The Sisterhood of Success, The Heart and Hustle of Women Entrepreneurs. If you're ready to level up your business without losing yourself in the process, you're in the right spot. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of TeagleTalks Heart and Hustle. Today, from Firehouse to CEO, Luke Teagle is not only my oldest brother, but he is also a Battalion Chief and a CEO of Firehouse Cleaners. Luke, a chance to introduce himself before we jump in.
Thank you for having me. Like you said, my name is Luke. I am been a firefighter for 22 years and have worked up to the rank of Battalion Chief currently. And probably over the last 15 to 17 years is when I developed this business, Firehouse Cleaners. I'm a commercial cleaning company in the communities that I live in, and have just kind of started from scratch, from the bottom, and just continue to work and find new clients and business, and it's been successful.
We are going to jump into all that today, and I'm excited because there's going to be a lot of those folks listening today that we can pick your brain on how you started and continued and how you're doing both, right, in that balance. So I want to jump in and just talk about, you've climbed the ranks to Battalion Chief while building Firehouse Cleaners. What are some of the personal habits or mindsets that have made that possible?
I kind of attribute consistency and discipline in both lines of work, showing up every day, making sure that you're putting your best foot forward and achieving whatever goal you're after that day, or the service that I'm being paid to provide for the city that I work for, or for the client that has hired me to come in and clean their business, or whatever the need is. So being prepared and staying focused is the biggest thing, and making sure that I can progress in both parts of my life, and that has allowed me to professionally work up the chain, but also with this business to grow to what it is, and it's been a successful venture.
Two of the things that you mentioned was discipline and consistency. I also want to just highlight that you grew up as an athlete. One of the previous episodes that I did was talking about how being an athlete can correlate into entrepreneurship skills. Do you feel like when you were growing up, the consistency and discipline and work ethic that you had toward sports also contributes to how you balance your career and your business?
I do. Yeah, I think a lot of it ties in the same in building good habits. When I was a young kid, has helped me as I've grown throughout college, throughout my time in the fire service, and since starting this. I believe that it all started from athletics back when I was younger. I understood that in order to be the best, or to be successful, you have to put work in and you have to put time in, not just assuming it's going to happen. You have to make it happen. And if you're not willing to make it happen, somebody else is.
The consistency and discipline of an athlete, it's a different type of mindset. That's something that I witnessed you having growing up, is that mindset of consistency and putting your health and all of those things first. Mm-hmm. What gaps did you notice in your community that led you to want to start the Firehouse Cleaners? And how did you validate that you had a real business opportunity or idea before you started?
It appeared to me for small businesses needing a cleaning service. And my original contract, which I still have with the same company, their company that they were using was cutting out contracts under X amount of dollars. And so that was what kind of got me in the door, being my first account. I took advantage of that and knew what they were paying. That was like a benchmark for me to at least start with, because that was the biggest challenge initially, was starting from the ground up. I didn't have anybody to lean on or ask questions. So I was fortunate that the initial company got let go because their account was too small. And then I just kind of pitched a number and did some research on what do you charge per square foot and different things like that. Developed a bidding process and a number that I thought, hey, this could work, and pitched it and got it. And then I just kind of stayed with that process throughout the duration.
Anybody that is looking to start a new business from scratch is going to start with no clients.
Mm-hmm.
As we know, as business owners, that's where you start at zero and
Hmm.
work your way up. How do you balance your decision making when in one area you have lives on the line at work and then livelihoods on the line in your business? How do you balance all of that?
The biggest thing, like related to the fire service, is you have to slow down when everything else is going around you 100 miles an hour. My job is to slow down and be able to think on my feet and make decisions that are going to determine the outcome and change, hopefully for the better, the outcome of whatever emergency scene I might be on. Taking that in as a business owner and developer lends itself to the same type mindset, is that you can't always get caught up in the weeds, so to speak. You have to slow down, weighing some of the risks, and that can hopefully help you to make the correct decisions so that you're not thinking through the process and just reacting. There are times where you have to do that, but I try to prevent that as much as I can. And emergency scenes and bidding contracts are totally two different worlds. So in the business world, I'm able to, wait, think about some things, reevaluate, do your walkthroughs, make sure you know how many rooms they have, what the bathrooms, what the hallway, and then just understanding what are their expectations. What do you want me to do? That's helped me be successful in the fire service, but also with Firehouse Cleaners.
You mentioned both because both are total opposites. One, you're always operating in a sense of urgency. And in the other, you have time to make better decisions or calculated decisions.
Hmm.
What systems or processes have been critical in allowing your business to grow without you burning out from the fire service or from your business?
Yeah, for me, for both lines of work, scheduling and expectations. And if I can schedule, and I'm pretty particular with scheduling, because the chaos is what stresses me out if I don't have a schedule to follow, or expectations or checklists to help me cover all of the things that I need to do for the business. Again, when you relate that to the fire service, your schedule is as good as the first minute that you walk in for work, and then everything can be out the door. But being flexible allows me to build that schedule how I can. And with my work schedule currently, I take advantage of the days that I have off and can work around that. Those are really the biggest things. And sometimes being boring can create some freedom, because if you're just kind of always running and just reacting, again, that's a different world to live in that I choose not to.
What we used to call in corporate, when you're in a state of reacting, you're in a state of always putting out fires, which
Hmm.
coincidentally, your instance, it could be both.
Right.
But you always want to be in a proactive state of mind versus reactive, because the
Hmm.
proactive gives you that clarity, allows you to set those expectations, allows you not to operate in that chaos that you're mentioning. That is really good advice for somebody that's starting out, but also for those that have been in leadership or own a business, find themselves in the chaos all the time. One of the things that I heard you say was your scheduling is critical for you. Do you
Hmm.
do you use certain tools for scheduling?
I have the traditional email schedules, but I'm pretty old school when it comes to the calendar. I like the paper book calendar, the big calendar that I carry with me all the time. And that allows me to just plan out a week, plan out a month, identify days that I can use for the Firehouse Cleaners, or days that I'm on shift and it's just out of reality. I can't do anything those days. My life up until this point is a fire department calendar that's colored with blue, red, and green boxes, determining that's what shift you're on. Those are the days you work. And then all of the other days, I have the freedom to schedule appointments and different things like that. I don't have anything that I don't plan a whole lot in my phone. It's all pretty much on paper that.
I also use a lot of color coding for
Mhm.
meetings and those things, Microsoft Outlook. Definitely understand the color coding, being precise. I think that's
Mhm.
part of being that type A personality.
Mhm. Yeah.
Probably we're very organized.
Yep. And
So
understanding in your emails as well, how to organize your inbox has really helped me. Pinning things that will have more priority over different things, and creating folders so that you're never necessarily deleting anything. You're just moving it. If something needs to be taken care of, we deal with it, and then it goes to a folder. the inbox full of, 500 to 1,000 emails, you don't know what's in there. And it's very easy to forget something, to pass over something, or maybe not prioritize it correctly. So that's another thing that I really have focused on over the last handful of years, to really have an organized inbox, which has helped me to be successful.
That ties into time management. One of the things that I teach leaders is, if something comes into your inbox, you need to determine within the first several minutes of seeing it is if you need to handle it and resolve whatever the issue is in 2 minutes or less, then you need to delegate it to somebody, then go ahead and do that in the moment. And if you need to prioritize it for later, then put it in a folder that may have that label. Also key is prioritizing any leads that you have coming in, bids or responses. So you're providing that customer service, but then also able to continue to not be in the weeds all day. Great insight there. I've talked to many first responders. Many of them struggle with the transition from employee to owner. What was the hardest mindset shift for you? Because you're unique in the fact of you have long-term done both. And a lot of the first responders that I talk to, they're wanting to leave the fire service. So they're starting a business, becoming an entrepreneur with an exit strategy. But for you, you mentioned been in the fire industry for 22 years, built your career, and you have a business. What's the hardest mindset shift? Like, you go from one day you're a fireman to the next day you're a CEO. Help us understand some of that.
I'd say probably realizing that ownership in the business is like full accountability, where I have to be everything. I don't have a staff that helps me do anything. I've been successful, just like I said, as a small business by myself, and over the years have used independent contractors essentially to help me reach some of those goals that I just can't do because my other schedule dictates my time. And so understanding how to pass information to those people, trust those people, give them clear expectations was a struggle, I should say, at the beginning, because I was so used to me doing it. When I bid this is what I'm expecting. This space should take this amount of time to clean. So I'm bidding that time for money. And then if it's not going that fast, or if a person, is slower, like having to adjust to some of those things when you're working with other individuals at the beginning was a challenge for me. I've been fortunate to have really great people for a long period of time now that I can fully trust, and they know what I expect, and they've proven over the years to be very valuable to me. So I think that was probably the biggest struggle mindset wise at the beginning, was kind of understanding to be in control, you have to give some of it up. And that was a struggle at the beginning, but I think it's only helped me to this point.
I like that you mentioned that. You mentioned a lot of different words like trust and accountability and communication, clear expectations. Those are all things that a strong leader will struggle with in the beginning and find their way. When I first started my leadership journey over 25 years ago, I thought everybody operated or did their job like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And what I quickly learned was that is not the case.
Right.
And that not everybody has the same work ethic or the same mind frame or the same strengths. The other thing that speaks to your leadership is the amount of tenure that you mentioned. If you can have less turnover in employee retention, then you do have that trust because you're able to build that with people over years of time. And they learn you learn their communication style, their personality, you know who to give what bid to. That's key when people are thinking about starting a business or what may go into having a small business. I like that you shared that. How do you manage the financial responsibility and risk while maintaining the stability of your family and your team when you have them? I know you mentioned that you contract out some work, but how do you maintain that financial responsibility and risk balance-wise?
I always go back with expectations. When I pitch these bids to the companies, I make sure that I'm clear with them as far as, is this equipment, all this equipment, is this something that you're going to be providing? or are you looking for me to provide? Typically, a business setting, they have all of the supplies there, which allows me to have really, really low overhead costs. I don't have to go out and purchase a bunch of items for 15 different businesses, because a lot of those businesses have those things. So just making sure that we have the same ideas. They're not expecting one thing. I show up day 1 or day 15 and it's something different. And I mean, I do have a budget that I work within, but by working with those business owners and getting on the front end the expectation and the ideas of, hey, you guys are going to be responsible for X, Y, and Z. I just come in, use it, it stays with you. That's been the most successful business model for me. There has been some things where, different companies are like, hey, we'd prefer you to take care of these things. So then for a period of time, you spend the money on the front end. You can recycle those products like a vacuum or something like that. Use those on different spaces later on so that you're not using it once and it's done. But if there's the disposable items, those are things, paper products, all of that type of stuff that I try not to get too far into the weeds on, because it just, again, creates more responsibility, more trying to deal with it on my off time, as opposed to just going and setting the table with, hey, here's what I come in and offer. And if they chose a different route because of that, then that's fine too. But I've, again, been successful with that approach. And there's a lot of other businesses that choose to do different things, maybe a more full service type thing where they can come in with a work truck and they have XYZ things. If you think about a home or you think about a business, I mean, every place has got cleaning products there because you need them constantly. So that was one thing that I realized in the beginning. Hey, I don't need to spend that money. I can use that money somewhere else for something that's going to be more beneficial down the road for.
You had a very clear business model. It may not have been what all the other cleaning companies offer, but you were clear on what your business model is. I will come in and clean. I would prefer you have the products. That's important because a lot of business owners that are starting out will try to conform to what everybody is wanting. And then their business model becomes unclear or very skewed of where they originally wanted to start. You mentioned if they go with a different bid that meets their needs, that's okay. And a lot of new business owners that are wanting to get that first client, second client, third client, they may do things that they normally wouldn't do based on their business model just to get that client. So
yeah, and I've been there. And sometimes you bite off more than you can chew, and now you're laying in bed at night trying to figure out how we're going to do this or what's going to happen, or I promised this, but now I can't provide that. So I mean, over the years you learn, and again, I go back to sometimes boring is okay. It provides freedom because I'm not having all of that. The more you take in, that sometimes the more stress it can be. And with my dynamic of business, I'm the main person trying to deal with this. And then I have contractors who I, relay information to, and then they go and go out and clean the space. But with my idea of Firehouse Cleaners, it was never to be a full-time step away from the fire service job. It was always going to be parallel with the fire service. And I've been able to do that very well so far.
That's very admirable to be that clear of what you want. Many people will go for a really big dream of, I'm going to leave the firehouse. I'm going to make this company be $1 million company and I'm going to be rich. And, they forget the responsibility that comes with that, right? Or they forget that they're going to have to live in a lot of stress and a lot of financial responsibility or a lot of chaos, or they become very critical of themselves that they haven't accomplished what they're wanting to by leaving the fire service.
Yeah.
Did you know very early on, like, I want to do both? I want to grow my career. Like, how did you come to that? There's going to be people that are resonating with your story that don't necessarily want to just run off and be millionaires for one business, but they want to do both. How did you get to that in your life?
As funny as it sounds, I mean, I've always been a cleaner. Cleaning to me is relaxing. That's just kind of how I started it. when I was starting in the fire service, for those listeners who work shift work, you have downtime, you have days off, you have time off. I was wanting to be creative with my time and try to double dip. You know what I mean? If okay, I've got my main job over here, and a lot of people in the fire service or law enforcement, they have other avenues and time to utilize. And, there's all sorts of jobs that you can do part-time that depending on how big you want to be with that other job, you could make that another full-time job. And so understanding, again, what my goals were to achieve with Firehouse Cleaners and having an idea and a model of how to get there is allowed me to get to where I'm at today.
One of the things that we've talked through is leadership. What are some leadership lessons from Firehouse that translate directly into, building a strong, reliable business culture that you've been able to create for your contractors, for your clients, and for yourself?
I have a few listed, but the ones that resonate with my cleaning company, but also in the firehouse, is my top three. And these are ones that I will mention in interviews if I'm in for different leadership jobs. But our trust, communication, and addressing the hard things early. Those are the three big things. And I do that with my staff now at the fire department. The people that I oversee is just trying to address things right away and not let things build up. And communication on the fire ground is always an issue. We have post-incident action reviews over different scenes daily or weekly or monthly, whatever it is. Communication is always something that comes up that we know we're going to struggle with. And so that lends itself to the private business as well. And so utilizing skills I can kind of use on both sides of the fence and help clear things up in moments of fog can be beneficial, help you to maybe I'll use your word, I've heard you say it before, but pivot and continue to go forward and not be in a complete stall or a stop or prevention of trying to go backwards. We're trying to always continue to move forward one small step at a time. And by utilizing the trust, the communication, and addressing those things from the start and not waiting for them to be big blow up things, I've found to be very helpful.
What advice would you give them before they take that leap?
There's nothing wrong with starting small and being humble and sometimes asking questions, even if you think it's a dumb question, but still ask it. Trying to seek somebody out that maybe has some good answers. And it doesn't need to be in necessarily the business that you're wanting to get into, but a lot of people have great advice outside of my specific job field or business field that you can take away from because they've been through it. They remember the days of when I started, this was a challenge. And when I started, this was a challenge. And that's what I've tried to do, understanding that you're going to make mistakes, give yourself some grace, but staying positive and trying to continue to keep the big goal, whatever that is for you, if it's to have 10 offices or have, 50 employees or make millions and millions of dollars, but just staying humble and understanding the big goal is whatever it is and trying to achieve that daily, small bites, not necessarily having to do everything at once because that can be very overwhelming and sometimes can shut you down before you even get started.
The biggest thing is the action, right? When you're saying do something daily, that means you have to take action daily to get where you want to go, to be who you want to be, to build your business how you want it to be. Thank you for sharing that. If somebody is wanting to get in contact with you, or to talk more about your business or with you, how can they do that?
It's more word of mouth. I do have social media accounts that you can message me on, and that's just my first and last name, and you should be able to find it. And again, they're not the business, it's the personal. So if you DM me and are looking for assistance with whatever your business needs might be.
All right. Well, Luke, thank you so much for spending time with us today, sharing your best practices and just your insight on all things growing in leadership and business. We really appreciate it. And Thank you for being on TeagleTalks Heart and Hustle.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And for anyone that's out there that is in the development stage or maybe already created something, good luck to you, and just keep pushing forward.